My name is Casey Miller, and I'm the founder and director of Southwest Institute of Healing Arts in Tempe, Arizona. We will have been in business 20 years next week. And in 20 years, what I can tell you is that the eyebrows don't go up quite as far as they used to. Because there used to be a time where you said, you're a massage therapist, like, oh, massage therapy. And they had this imagination about what it was. Or you would say, I'm into holistic healing. And I would always think that they thought I said, and I'm a witch. Because it was like that kind of experience. And there used to be a time where it was almost like I felt like we had to be underground because maybe their grandmother or maybe the church they were going to wouldn't approve. And now we are the church. I mean, really, people say, I don't find what I'm looking for in the churches. And what I want to find is how to be in connection with spirit. And so over the years, we've come to realize, you can only please those that you're here to serve. Now, that's a really big thing because a lot of people think they have to please everybody. And what I've come to realize is if we can encourage people, especially young people, to speak their truth, that's really where we can make a big difference. And so they say, I don't go to church anymore, or I'm not religious, but everyone's spiritual. Everyone's spiritual. And the most exciting thing for me is to see how now the young people are the ones that are really being the spiritual gangsters. I mean, they're the ones that are like, I want to break out. It's like, I don't want to have to pray the way my mom did or my grandma did or how I'm supposed to. And yet, it's like they get on the deepest level that they are connected. And they connect because they're willing to go back and plant gardens. And they connect because they're willing to speak it, say, and however their language is. And that's the most exciting thing. Yes, over the time, we've gotten credibility. And my thing is I've been willing to jump through any hoop I had to, go through state license. We're a state licensed college. We're a nationally accredited college. We're recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. Now, is that a big thing? It is, because so often people want to get a diploma or a degree and they need financial aid, and so they can. But I got to tell you, over the years, it's been one of the most disciplined things I've ever done. Because for the most part, it's like if it was a rule and if you had to do it, it's like, no. And what I realized is the more I'm able to jump through the hoops and legitimize what it is that we do, the better it's going to be for anyone that follows in my footsteps, let alone anybody that really wants to go out and make a living doing this. So what's my passion? What am I totally juiced about? I remember young. I remember third grade. And I remember, this is my experience, saying, and my father doesn't work for anyone. And in my mind, that was my mentality. I wanted to own my own business. And so over the time, I really have never had a job. I've only worked for myself. And as I talk to young people, that's what they want. They want to be able to not work for the man. And yet, how do you do that and have this wonderful experience of being in the holistic field? So over the last few years, my passion has been to support people in learning enough skills that are now recognized and not criticized, and that it's like, have you ever had a massage? I was like, well, of course. Whereas in 20 years ago, it was like, have you ever had a massage? I was like, no, and they were proud of it.
And now it's Reiki.
Now it's Reiki and everything. Yeah. So, and I want them to be able to make a living doing it. And so, you've heard the thing, if you do what you love, you'll make a living. And I've made a great living helping other people make a life and really find their passion. And to me, that's the most important thing.
And that's such a good model for the ones growing up, that you're a change maker. You're the one that set everything in motion, and now have 20 years of people that have changed their lives. And it must be exciting to you because, like you said, it was very woo-woo 30 years ago.
It was very woo-woo.
It still is to a point.
Yeah.
But what do you attribute the change to? Is it people just standing up and saying, I've had enough. I really want the truth. I understand there's
Well,
more.
everything's a cycle if you think about it. I mean, everything's a cycle. We started out where we healed through herbs, and then we had this amazing thing called pharmaceuticals. And so we have all this medicine, and then we have all this money, and then comes politics. And so then it was like outlawed, you couldn't do herbs. And still to this day, there's like, a whole contingent of people that don't want the herbs and the aromatherapy and anything holistic to happen. Why? Because it takes away from their money and the politics that happen from it. But everything's a cycle now. People want organic, they want holistic, and they're willing to pay more for it. So why does it come around? It just always comes back around. One of the things that I just finished doing was writing a new program, and it's called The Principles of Transformational Healing, and it's a part of our holistic nutrition program that we offer on campus and online. And I went back and researched, like, where did all this start? Well, it started with Hippocrates saying that let our food be medicine and may our medicine be our food. So it's coming full circle. So as you look at it, you look at all of these people that have always believed what we believed, and it's just like a time warp. I mean, the place that I got so excited about this morning was witches. I mean, think about how many. Do you know how many women were burnt because they claimed to be a healer? Not that they said I'm a healer, but it's that they were using salves and herbs and that.
Mm-hmm.
Over 1 million witches, healers, have found their fate to be by fire. Now, we always say in today, you'll walk through fire. Luckily, it's not the kind of fire that our past sisters walked through, but the fire is for you to be willing to say to your family, and I'm going to be a massage therapist, I'm going to be a hypnotherapist, I'm going to be. Now, the exciting thing now is that some of the moms are actually my grandchildren now, age. So things are happening. And so now, it's like, of course, I've had, I think about my grandchildren. Every one of my grandchildren have had massage since the day they were born. They've had massage all the time. They don't even think of anything other than Granny, will you put your hands on me? Granny, will you pray for me? I mean, like, that's their way of life. And so I get excited about being the granny of this particular era. But think of all of the grannies and the grandfathers, the forefathers that came before us, and that's what I love to honor. And that's part of what this new class that I've been writing is that there is a whole history here and there's a whole history here. You can do the whole allopathic, and yet there's a whole holistic. Which is older? Holistic. And which part was Gandhi a part of? Which part was Buddha a part of? Which path was Christ a part of? So we come from a long, amazing line of healers. If you think, okay, would I be willing to be Christ energy? Would I be willing to be Buddha energy? Gandhi energy? And then you begin to think, well, what about Marianne Williamson energy? And what about Donald Walsh energy? And what about Deepak Chopra? I mean, they're all graying. That means we need new, young people. I mean, yeah, they're famous and wonderful, but who are the next leaders? And they will be the brave ones. They will be the young people that don't even imagine that there's anything unusual, odd, or woo-woo. It'll become their way of life.
It's natural.
So, it's natural.
They're growing up with the abilities,
Absolutely.
and they know that
Absolutely.
there's more. We are energy, and
Yes.
then take it a step further. The science is now backing it
Yes.
up. Maybe 30 years ago it wasn't, and you bring that into play. Hopefully, people will use critical thinking and go, "There's something to this."
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you had just a minute to speak to the world, and you're talking about the people that are growing up, that are being pushed down with their belief systems, their societal influences every which way. Maybe they're in a family that isn't supportive. They're not speaking their truths. Maybe they've never even heard about holistic therapy, healing, any of that nature. What would you say to those type of people that want a better life, want to create a better life, that want to know more of this than what they're told? What could they do and what steps could they follow to create a better life?
Mhm. I would say the very first thing that I would say to a young person, and I say it to my 3-year-old granddaughter, and I say it to my son that will soon be a medical student. Don't ever doubt the voices in your head, because those voices are the voice of spirit that's connected to that universal mind. If you hear it, if it's an idea, it's the voice of God. It's the voice of spirit. And so often I think that young people will sometimes feel like they're odd or they're extra or they don't fit in because and what I would say is, if you're odd, great. You have been chosen. You wouldn't be odd, you wouldn't be feeling like you were out of place if you weren't on assignment. I mean, think about it. I would imagine that Christopher Columbus was not necessarily the most popular teenager in the world. I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
So for me, when I have a chance to talk with a young person, it's like, if you're feeling uncomfortable, you're on assignment. You're chosen.
Be different.
Be different.
It's like that saying that normal women never got anything extraordinary accomplished.
Yeah, exactly.
Some lady said that.
Exactly. So what would I say? It's like, when you hear it and feel it, it's real. I mean, that's the piece. I think every young person now knows about the Force, knows about the Matrix, and those are all real holistic principles. We put them out in the movies because it's a paradigmal thing that we can relate to, but that's real, and that's what their mentality is. It's like they don't even question that we could live in multiple time frames or dimensionality, or that our next life could have happened in that life. That's not even it's like, yeah, and what's new? So what I say to a young person is, if you hear it and you feel it, sometimes you may not say it right then, it may not be safe enough, but don't ever doubt yourself. That what's alive in you is the wisdom of the ages. I mean, that's the thing that you have to realize, that everybody from the past has every healer's molecules within them. So it's like, think of it. You have everybody that has come from the past. I have everybody that's come from the past. That's what's called the collective consciousness. And so if we understood that, if we could look behind us, think about how many people are behind us, and that's where our real power comes from. Those that are out here called mother, father, sister, judge, whatever it is.
Politicians.
All they are lessons. They're kind of like the gauntlet to get through. I always say to someone, if you feel like you've been loved inadequately, it's perfect. Because if you were loved and fully supported, you'd never leave your room. You'd never search for the mountain. So isn't it I mean, it's like I say, women will say, oh, I just wish I could bring my husband up to speed. And I always say, do you feel loved inadequately? Oh, fully, absolutely. How did you know? It's like, because it's perfect. If you were perfectly loved, you'd want to stay home and be barefoot and pregnant all the time. You wouldn't want to go to the mountain. But if you're restless, if you feel like you don't have everything that you want, it's by design. It's what gives you the passion and the purpose to climb and search. The thing about young people, every single one of them will tell you they feel itchy. Like they're itching for something, like waiting to happen. And it's not like you're waiting for the state fair to come to town or you're waiting for the circus. No, the thing that every young person I've had a chance to talk with say is, I feel like I'm supposed to do something, like be something, or change the world. I mean, that is a very, very common thing, especially what we hear here, that they know they're going to get an assignment. And so they're just like waiting, preparing themselves, like, come on, give me a clue. And what I would say is, you're right, you are waiting for an assignment. Sometimes you're in training for that assignment. There are no extra people, though. everybody has a purpose. Everybody is here for a reason. And so that's the other thing I always say. What if my job is to make sure that you or that young person or that client that comes to me realizes that I'm on earth to serve them? Or what if my job is to one day say to somebody, you're on earth to serve, or you're on earth to do. Sometimes all we need is one person that validates us and helps us remember who we are and why we're here.
You beautifully said. So walk me through there's untold millions of people that have that itch, whether they're young or old. They are itching to do something better. They're stuck in their life. They're sitting at home on the computer, searching on Google how to create a better life, whatever. If I took the word evolve and growing to a bigger consciousness or a bigger understanding of yourself and creating a better situation, walk me through some processes. What could I do right now? Would I change my thoughts? Would I write down lists and find out what I'm passionate about? What do you tell people to do if they're ready? They're itching, ready to go, but they don't know the exact steps.
Oh, there's so many answers I could give you, but the first one that comes to mind is that you always have clues. Like there's never a time where you don't have hunches or clues. 20 years ago, there was an amazing book called The Celestine Prophecy. Can you believe that was 20 years ago?
Oh.
And what the author of that book said to us, James Redfield, he said, we'll begin to notice that things appear more coincidental or more brighter, and there are always these little clues. What I would say to someone saying, well, what's that itch? I'd say, well, think about, when does it come? Like, when do you get that itch? Is it when you are doing something, thinking about something, watching something, listening to a certain kind of music? Is it something that you're drawn to? Everybody has a talent. And some of it is we can go back to when we're 3 to 5 years old. When you're 3 to 5 years old, what color did you like? Were you outside playing, inside playing? Were you making things up? I mean, that's where our first clues come in. I mean, our real first clues come in from our toes. I mean, I love, get me off on a whole passion here, but I love being able to look at a baby, and within the first 48 hours, you can look at their toes and you'll have an idea, you'll have a clue as to what their personality is going to be, whether they're going to be an extrovert or an introvert, whether they're here to serve front of the room or back of the room. I mean, there's so many clues. So what would I say is begin to realize everything is something, and that it's not like you don't know. It's almost like a video game. You have to try this and try this and try this. Well, your life is just a extension. It's just a manifestation of the video games. It's like, here's the video game, and then your life is like this. So you're like trying this, you're trying this, and you're going this way, and you're trying that. That's part of it. That's part of it. And I'm convinced the reason we don't know is that we're being tested. Are we willing to go through this chute, and then that chute, and then this black hole? And finally, it's like, some people, it's like, oh, I guess I'm not here to do anything. Oh, I guess I'm worthless. Oh, I guess I'm no good. Or not. And then many times people have what they call the dark night of the soul, or they'll have some major catharsis or crisis. And when they're in that, it's like, perfect, perfect. You're close. You're close. And because a lot of times we have these life-changing things, whether it's that we run away from home, someone leaves, we have a catastrophic illness, all of those things are perfection, because they're right before the big door opens.
It's like an auto-correction.
Absolutely.
Get back on path.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So there are so many techniques, but what would I say is that there's no mistakes, there's no accidents, everything is just coded and clued, and that we begin to look with different eyes, these eyes of curiosity, and imagine that when you look at something, there's always a message. In our language, we call it metaphors, that everything is a metaphor. And children are great with metaphors. I mean, they make up metaphors. It's like, they'll use a rock, and all of a sudden it becomes a car, or they'll give a name to a certain animal. They're creating these metaphoric things, and then hopefully they get to a point where they realize that there are these little clues. Ooh, I like this. I like that.
Finding clues, maybe
Finding
even
clues.
trusting your gut instinct,
Oh,
and
definitely.
bringing that in.
Yeah.
Then the question arises always: the opposition shows up.
Mhm.
How do you deal with opposition in so
Mhm.
many forms?
In so many forms, absolutely, absolutely. You know, this is where I would say discernment comes in. It's probably not a word you can always say to a young person, depending on how it's like, know when to speak and know when to shut up. And there are times that, bless their family's heart, they need to understand that their family is there not for them to speak to or about, but just to understand it's about them getting strong. Hopefully they're born into a nest that's supportive. But for a while, my husband and I had a chance to own a charter high school, and we worked with at-risk teenagers. So when you say, what would you say to teenagers? Let me tell you, that's my passion place. And what we find is more and more young people are coming in. What do I say? Some of it is that oftentimes you're not able to fully speak it out until you find a safe place. And what does a safe place look like? Hopefully it is a group of like-minded people. Oftentimes it won't always be of your age group. You'll find a mentor, or you'll find somebody that you're really, really drawn to. And that's where you begin to speak it. You begin to speak your truth. And sometimes you flat need to say it, because you might be the teacher that your family has been waiting for. I always say the best compliment you can get is to make your family uncomfortable. Because when you do, then that means that somebody, some energy that's greater than us said, I know this person is spiritually reliable. I know I can count on him to make people uncomfortable. And that's when change happens. When you make someone uncomfortable, your parents, your teachers, your whoever it is, uncomfortable, you've done a good job. You've done a good job, because you're challenging them.
A lot of kids
So,
might like that.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that who are the wise ones? They're the young ones. We have so many children that are coming back and doing it again. And this time they're coming in with more of a conscious wisdom. Doreen Virtue says that you could call them crystal children. A past life therapist might say they're an old soul. I think it's pretty exciting for us to begin looking at who the new angels are that are walking on earth. Anybody that's 12 and under, there's like a whole new excitement. I mean, what you know at 12, in the old days you didn't know till 21. I mean, really, it's that kind of a thing, or at least. It's kind of like we used to say, when does a woman come into her wisdom? And it was always at menopause. And at menopause, finally the woman couldn't not speak her truth. We can't say that anymore. When do young women come into their wisdom? Maybe they come in at 15. They don't wait until 50. So do you see how it's starting? And so if we begin to look at those that are 12 and under, woo, we're talking old, exciting souls. It's like when I'm with my granddaughter, it's like, all right, girlfriend, what are you here to teach me? And that's how I talk to her. That's
just because she's younger doesn't mean anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, no, I feel like now more than ever, it's exciting to begin to say, wow, who are those new teachers? Who will be the leaders of tomorrow? Who will be those that the holistic healing principles or metaphysics will be the, well, duh, of course, versus those of us that pioneered in a different time.
And there's the metaphysical shift that everyone talks
Absolutely.
about that says you're moving into these different energies, the
Yes.
frequencies are changing. And I heard the old earth and the new earth. I heard many different ways of putting it, but a lot of them are the conscious versus the unconscious. The ones that choose to excel are the conscious. The unconscious are the ones that just, they want to be in their box and shut out the world. And due to free will, we can decide. So it's almost a choice. Are you going to be the unconscious and not willing to evolve, or the conscious change maker that sparks thinking, creativity, innovation, and all to hopefully create a better world? It's kind of a choice.
The word that has a renaissance coming is metaphysician. We have metaphysicians among us. And what does that mean? The physician within, that we can heal ourselves. And meta means we see the bigger place.
Beyond.
So, beyond. So what's the career of the future? It's to be a metaphysician. That you heal not only the earth and by planting gardens, not only by being conscious of what you put in, but understanding that you are your own physician and that it's through your consciousness that we'll heal. Yeah, pharmaceuticals will always be here, but they're on their way out, trust me. Because it's all a cycle.
It's simple
Yeah.
supply and demand
Yeah.
now. There's going to be so much
Yeah.
need for healing, and
Right.
especially self-healing.
Right.
You bring up a good point. Do you have, what else do you want to say? Do you have anything else? Wow.
Let's see.
You're on a roll.
I was gonna say, I could talk for 3 days about it. You know, the other thing I want to just talk just a little bit about is how the world is shrinking.
Okay.
One of the things that happened is about 4 years ago, I had a chance to take a piece of my work to Japan. And what I love is I don't speak any Japanese, and I don't need to. That has been the most exciting thing. I can work with the modality, and I can just honor that their experience is the same as anybody else's experience. And by me just sitting with them and sharing with them, and sometimes the entire healing is me looking at another person whose language we don't speak, but we are able to speak the language through our eyes and our heart.
Mhm.
It's amazing. So I love that now we don't have to think that this is just an American thing that's happening. It's a world thing. It's a big shift. So for the last 4 years, twice a year I go to Japan, and what do I do there? Hang. I just hang in the essence of someone else, and healing happens. It's been amazing. Yes, I travel with a translator, and what I realize is sometimes I don't even know if she's I don't know what she's saying, and sometimes she forgets to say anything, you know. But we're in this energetic place that healing's happening, and part of it is just this knowing that healing can happen when you just hang with someone, and you're just in this place where you're validating them and really honoring them as a beautiful, beautiful soul. So that's been amazing.
And the whole idea of just holding space.
Holding space.
Oh.
Mhm.